Welcome back to the NLC. We're straight into picks and bans. Look at this.
Look at that.
Speed. Set's gone off the table though. Will Slowq ever be allowed to play as champion again, Nightmare?
No, probably not. What it allows you to do is not really care about, whatever your matchup is mid and just go brawl somewhere else on the map. And that's really important, particularly when you have people who play hard carries in bot and top lane, as we saw last game. Interesting to see that, of course, we are on the same sides, no switch arounds in there. And these are, it's about to say similar bans, notable face being taken away there.
Yeah, Fury on that. Aurelia was pretty special. Did a lot of work. That last fight used the GA as a resource, just going with the face. They did get the team fight win with that final, oh my days, that final flawless duet just to get the life of MC at the end of it. I can see why they got rid of it.
And the Gwen's going to be taken away as well. We'll have to see what's going to sneak through that was banned last time around. The Viego notably hasn't found the ban hammer just yet, but Riddle do have the option to take that one off the table, and there it is. So there are a couple of strong picks available. I think it's the Fresh is the champion that has found its way through, and with PlayStation and Prosphere both being experts at this pickup, and it opening up the Aphelios even further, because Gooby played well, but it was a bit of a struggle in terms of being caught out and killed, positioning and not having a safety net. But Nightmare, could we see that on Singularity this time around?
I think it's a very apt first pick because Thresh gets to roam for free and so many different support matchups right now and AD carry matchups. Very strong at enabling the hyper carries, as Sam is so succinctly put across, so much of our pre-games and stuff. It's going to be the hook city down the bot side, so at least this means that PlayStation has a form of engage to get onto any eventual hyper carry that could come in there. It's away from Leona, and honestly, PlayStation looked really at home on that Leona, so still on the engage front foot, though hopefully going to be putting Dragged under a little more threat than they were last game.
I like the Lee Sin pick up here as well. Still flexible. It's away.
Surprised we didn't see it last game at all.
Because obviously you saw what he was like on the semis on that. Well, semis there, the previous playoffs match rather. A little bit too early to call him that one of semis, but I like that takeaway. But unsurprisingly, the Aphelios locked in here alongside the Thresh. There has been an ongoing debate about whether Aphelios without something to keep him safe in the support role is as viable. That's not the question this time. Got that option. You can kind of position a bit like what Gooby was, but with the lantern there to bail you out from stepping up so aggressive.
I'm interested to see what is going to be the lock-in here for Singularity. It's going to be the Sejuani, which Nolte played on well last game. It was great because they had the opportunity to pick and lock down people for a very, very long time and into some of the tankier members that they were trying to catch out. And of course, when you had to Gangplank out twice with his cleanse, a really, really nice pickup. Nolte played well on it, so glad to see that one coming through. And it leaves their solo lanes very, very open. Yes, Sejuani could go top, but I think it's probably unlikely. And Riddle going to be deciding it's the LeBlanc this time around.
So LeBlanc falls out of 100% pick and ban statistics for the NLC playoffs because, of course, wasn't picked or banned. And the very last game was 100% up until that point. What I'm really interested in now is seeing that we have the Aphelios kind of in the complete opposite situation as they were in terms of how they play in a team fight from last game, because they have the superior front line because no one really tops Sejuani in that role right now, at least in the current meta picks, and then also has a peeling pick, or at least a more dedicated peeling pick as well. So Riddle are on the other side of the saying, how do we get to the Aphelios this time? Do we have to lock in someone with a bit more artillery-like presence? Gooby did play the Xerath, for instance. Everyone's been playing stuff like the Ziggs. You need a way to get on top of that Aphelios. LeBlanc can find ways in and about those gaps within your formation, but it's not as consistent as you'd like.
I mean, something interesting though is we have moved in our second round of bans. Of course, the Tristana taken off the table, but Dragdar wouldn't be playing that anyway, so it's been taken off the table by his team. But the Galio banned away. We saw Prosphere playing a couple of games of it in our series on Tuesday that we saw, but I don't know if it's something that I particularly would expect Fury to be pulling out and playing in the style that we saw from the last game, where he was on the Aurelia really on that carry pickup. So interesting to see. The Stylus, of course, was hovered, and that's been removed as well.
Yeah, I mean, like the Galio would have been a very different playstyle, but it would still been a lot of playmaking, even if it is not necessarily like the carry threat. And you've got the Aphelios to keep another way to keep them alive. You've already got some front lines, so you see the thinking.
Just more alive as well.
There's that final Lady Caravan go towards the Callista, something that can kind of potentially match Aphelios in that early lane. Aphelios Thresh is something we've seen a lot of, that, if you're given the right amount of space, you can actually shove in really aggressively the first couple levels, things like the Onslaught and the Calibrum. Poke out with one, you shove the wave really hard with the other, you stay healed up because Onslaught heals you up. It's a really nice pair of options there. But
I was wondering
they're
about
thinking about going for a
wondering about
Jinx,
this.
which has been
So-
a bit of an option into a
Yeah,
failure.
I was going to hop in there and say, oh, Jinx has sometimes been an option to Aphelios, because at level 9, you outrange the Aphelios. Problem is you have 8 levels to go through before you get to that point, and it's against another hook support. You're probably not going to start, well, you definitely don't win priority at level 1. Aphelios is one of the best champions in the game at walking up to a wave, brawling with you, stack and conquer, and then healing off the wave anyway, right? He just has it all at early levels. Later the game goes, though, you are going to be able to lock that Sodrani in place, hopefully, and then have the 2 hyper carries wailing away at the front line. You just kind of hope you can burst that front line and then run through to the back beyond that.
Really excited to see the solution lock-in coming in from
Yeah,
Fury. We talked a little bit about the counter pickups into this LeBlanc matchup, and people were saying Lissandra is the go-to, but if you've got that really top-level skill cap, that Lelouch is the better option. And of course, Fury, we've seen this guy all split. We definitely know this guy's at the top end, and it's going to be Tazahada stuck all the way through to Blue 5.
Will,
before
your
being
brain
locked
is
in.
huge. That's the Sejuani top. You called it as a potential option. That's going to be Diana jungle through the Sejuani top.
If that's going to... What,
Nightmare is furious.
Because
Go on.
like,
All right.
if you go into the Gangplank again, I was wondering if there's any way you can arrange things to get a Lucian top into that. That was one of the older fun matchups.
true.
Probably not going to be the case in this time though, especially with the tank versus tank top side. That one's more than fine.
Yeah. I'm quite interested to see as well, like, LeBlanc and Lee Sin is not quite Lee Sin and
Incredibly
Syndra in terms of the
strong
immediate stun, but it's very strong 2v2, particularly at that kind of level 6. Chains, distortions, all the damage that Lee Sin can bring. Like, yes, Lucian is a potential option to Blanc. Yes, it can counter it at high levels particularly, but you've got to be so afraid because Diana does take level 6, maybe an item to be really online. I'll be interested to see how that matchup goes because that could get a little bit dicey for Slowkey.
I'm very interested in this mid lane duo coming in from Diana and Lucian as well, because there's a lot of damage there if they can land that CC. And Nightmare, just last thought before we throw to our lovely casters. Singularity taking this 2-0, or do you think Riddle can come back?
I'm not a massive fan of how you play the early game with Lucian in mid with the Diana. It can get a little bit awkward. And that means that I think that LeBlanc might get a bit unchained, but we'll have to see. Last game, it wasn't about the draft. It was all about the mid-game to late-game execution. You've just got to hope that Riddle aren't too rattled and they can come back strong in game 2 and give us a game 3.
So it turns out what Nightmare is saying is the team with the better gameplay wins the game. Who'd have thought, eh?
Execution.
Great analysis, love it.
Wow. I'm
What do
so
you want
glad
me to
you
do?
put the
That
depth.
was unnecessarily me, but it's fine.
Why am I here?
Luckily, hey, I need to throw to our casters, you two. Watch it. Luckily for us, we have orcs on the casting desk who can actually do some analysis, and hit brain's there as well. Casters, take it away.
I mean, it's true. Orcs can do some match analysis, so let's have a little bit more of a win lane win game, Orcs.
Win lane win game was a banger though. I can't
That was
compete
an
with that.
absolute banger.
Yeah, that is.
Come on, no, Mary. You're not even on
S-tier
that
analysis.
level, bro. Anyway,
Yeah.
Orcs, talk to me about these comps. What are we liking? What are we disliking? Do you think Riddle have given themselves, tools to win the game? I mean, actually, sorry, they gave themselves tools to win last game. They just didn't execute on that. But
Yeah.
have they given tools to themselves this time as well?
So I think here they have a really strong mid jungle, and that's kind of the pivotal thing for this composition, because realistically, one of the issues with this Jinx is that the range is great, but if you're sort of in a position where you're struggling, you're behind, you're being threatened, Singularity might just run over you, and once Gooby's down, the rest of the fight becomes a struggle for Riddle. So I really want to see MC put attention mid. I want to see slow Q challenging Fury. If you shut the Lucian down, the pressure starts to bleed into the jungle and into the side lanes, and that's critical here. The reason they pick Lucian here is because they need priority so that Diana can survive to level 6.
Yeah.
If you can just farm, if you can just scale up, if you can get to that point, she's going to feel really comfortable, and the rest of the pieces for Singularity will fall into place. So for Riddle, they have a specific window they need to play through, and we're looking to see if they can capitalize on that.
Alrighty, well, minions are about to spawn up, and the lane assignment has been set. It doesn't look like we're seeing any invade shenanigans coming out, and it's a bit of covering on the jungle. Both of these junglers starting up on the top side of the map, which means they will be clearing downwards, so odds are there may be some contest over Crab, so we'll have to keep our eyes on how Fury and Slowq can manage their waves, because them being able to roam is going to be very important for these early skirmishes.
No, absolutely. And it's a real big battle of priority, essentially, in this situation. In the mid lane, it is the pivotal sort of battleground that's going to set the pace of this match. See in the bot side, Gooby procs the lethal tempo, use some rockets to try and get a bit of extra priority here. And it's interesting we see this Thresh Nautilus matchup. This is something that, there's differing opinions on how it goes. A lot of people think that Thresh is fine in this matchup and kind of just disengage and deal with Nautilus. A lot of people feel like Nautilus just engage onto the Thresh, and also his layering of CC means the Lantern isn't always usable. But I think it definitely opens up opportunities for skill expression and to see who finds that favor.
Well, we're seeing this stage 1 in top lane with the Ignite here versus Kex. Bit of light trading, but level 2 has come through. I think it's that level 3 mark is when, you can really trade because you got all that CC to work with. So for now, it's going to shove the wave into Kex, recognizing the level disadvantage and the CS disadvantage. It's just going to back away as expected of a LeBlanc versus Lucian. Slow Q is getting pretty heavily shoved in this mid wave. Junglers pretty much on pace with one another, although MC just a little bit further behind due to the fact he had to go do his Krugs, so it's a bit of a longer route. But other than that, should be A-okay. Oh, Fury.
Doesn't manage to snap the chains, doesn't get the proc on the Q. It's a little bit unfortunate there, but still sort of find those opportunities to trade heavily. And we'll just go for the reset now, go for a quick buy and TP back in, I think is the goal here. Essentially, it means you're going to have that pressure so MC can push for that bot lane scuttle very easily, but Nalty isn't even interested. He's going for the top side. And seeing some heavy trading here, this actually potentially opens up a window for a dive. With the Ignite, you really do not need very much to find a kill in this situation. Weasel, though, taking a fair bit of damage, which might actually discourage it. And a thing to note is that Hex does have some in the spellbook, so he can potentially pick up the Ignite later on and use that to challenge in the 1v1.
MC actually moving over through the lane, thinking he can probably double crab, but the crab's already been taken topside, so nothing to be gained there. No camps spawning up, and this blue buff will remain alive and well for a little bit longer. Same for the Krugs, though, from Nalty. Nalty probably looking just to clear downwards, although his camps haven't actually spawned up yet.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting the delay in this blue buff, and potentially opens up opportunities where like the timing of the second blue can be something that can be played around, giving that over to slow queue. Also makes it very difficult for the enemy team to challenge when they don't know the blue timer, because if you're just clearing standard, you have a very good estimate of when the blue's been taken down. With this still up and available, it's actually going to be pretty hard for Singularity to read when it will respawn.
Oh, Kex actually used the Bellows Breath, so he can be locked down here. Permafrost on, just a little bit of a trade there from Wazor, but Kex able to trade back with purely a Q. That champion still does stupid damage.
Yeah, I like how back in the day, whenever we saw top laners fighting, we'd be like, oh, it's wet noodle fight. Now it's like, no, top laners have real weapons and they do a fair amount of damage.
Yeah, they have wet noodles and then Ornn turns up with a brick. That's pretty much how the fights go. Really, really rotten. Anyway, big wave getting shoved in. MC just going to clear out this vision. As Wazor does have to be a little bit careful. It's a fairly large wave, but he has been able to trim through it somewhat. With the level up, may just find himself getting tower dove, though, as MC looks for the kick. Great little dodge out from Wazor, and underneath the tower they go. MC gets chunked out pretty heavily. Okay, it turns out Stage 1, he also brought a brick to this fight.
Yeah, and a little bit risky going for the tower dive. Now, Gooby, I think you're just dead here.
I think this one's less risky, if I'm going to be honest with you. Gooby flashes away, Nalty follows up, and it's first blood like that. Easy as for Singularity.
A really poor timing, honestly, from PlayStation. The wave's being pushed in. You have to be there to cover. There's no reason for you to be mid in that situation. You opened up a window for Singularity to dive, and they are happy to take it. The only real consolation is that they didn't take your blue buff as well, because they very much could have if they wanted to.
I love his cold start as well on Wazor. That's some investment gaming, that is.
He's going to the moon. It's the stonks. Also see a call picked up by Gooby. And now the Jinx with low summoners in a bit of a precarious position.
Ooh. Once again, Bella's breath is on cooldown. The lockdown from Wazor. Solo kill for the pig in the top lane. Beautiful stuff.
And I mean, credit to Wazor, but I'm not sure why Kex is looking for a 1v1. You know, press tab. You can see the enemy Sejuani has Ignite. I just don't understand the thought process behind looking for that all in. You're not winning it. It's just not happening. Even with the item advantage, which is what I think he was banking on. But it was well played by Wazor, in fairness, and finds an opportunity to get a little bit of an advantage in that top lane matchup.
And off the back of that, goes back, gets a Kindle Gem, gets a Null Magic Mantle as well. Now got the Hextech Alternator finished up onto Nulty. So working towards that Proto Belt for himself. But other than that, it's mainly components. We're mainly sitting on components. Gooby, though, no Noon Quiver, which is pretty big, as Prospect. As the hook on the minion, get behind me, Mr. President. Gooby's going to be A-OK. They have a pretty large wave to shove in here, and Dragdar not particularly got the best wave clear guns, but even so, should be able to catch this wave. But we'll see if they're just going to look to reset or turn this into something else. I think it's the Dragon for Riddle, because they are able to pick up the first Drake for themselves this time around.
And Drake doesn't mean that much this game. Picked up that early one for Riddle. Potentially they can force fights around it, but really the priority is the Herald. We need to see Riddle snowball in this game and applying that pressure. The fact that Singularity have managed to get their 2-kill lead, about 1,000 gold up, and Diana's been unchecked to level 6, Singularity are more than happy with the outcome of this game so far.
All right, well, Kex once again just getting traded. I mean, that damage from Winter's Wrath, is he maxing it? Yes, he is. He's maxing Winter's Wrath. Okay, that's why that damage is absolutely crazy from Wazel.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that Sejuani does a decent amount of percentage HP damage. You're actually pretty good at trading into tanks, which is why we see it sort of in these scenarios doing quite well. And like moments like that where Kex prowls the wave instead of the trade with Sejuani are the windows which can be punished. You obviously can't just dash away there, but definitely not having the most fun time in this matchup. Not nearly as much fun as he was having on the gangplank into the Gragas.
Great little traps there laid down by Gooby onto Dragdar. Does force him to not take the Lantern, but at the end of the day, they don't actually have the kill pressure. No ultimate to Flay Station available quite yet. And Wazel potentially setting up here onto Slowq in the mid lane. Got that Glacial Prison back up off cooldown. Ignite almost there as well. It's just going to head back towards his top lane. And we'll see whether or not they're going to be able to kind of translate this pressure that they started to accrue in the top side, and obviously just naturally from having a Lucian into a Rift Herald. Obviously, Wazel needs to go catch the wave and deal with it. And now it's Kex's turn to move around the map. And good change from Slowq could spell the end of Fury, although MC is in the area as well. So it might be a little scary for Fury with the 3 members roaming around that area. So he's just going to reset. Yep, and we saw that blue taken very late by MC, and this means that there currently isn't a blue available for Slowq, which actually is a pretty big disadvantage at this point in the game, because Fury has his, he's able to apply that pressure, push the wave in, spam his abilities, and means he's able to get that reset quicker. You can already see Singularity collapsed in towards this Herald. Prospero is moving up as well. This seems like an easy pickup for the status Singularity, and if they get this one, I'm starting to get really worried for Riddle. Well, looks like there's going to be no contest. There's that pressure I was talking about between the mid and top. Going to recruit in that, as Nulty was actually doing that on vision because there was a ward in the back of the pit that just timed out. So they did know this was going on from the side of Riddle, but not really in the area to be able to deal with it. Not going to be able to contest a bit. And now Nulty with that Rift Herald in his pocket. I'd like to see that injected into Dragdar. I think he is, you know, a big insurance policy for you on this team. We saw what Gooby was actually able to do on the Aphelios, you know, when he wasn't mispositioning. Had some incredible team fighting coming out from Dragdar. So I think injecting gold and getting the Aphelios into the game going to be a really good win condition here for Singularity. We're on that 10-minute mark now. We've got a little bit of time before the dragon comes up, and you know, first items will slowly start to come in around that first dragon mark as well. Although Dragdar will be a little bit slower to the punch on that one, just because he detoured into those tier 2 boots. PlayStation got level 5, so it doesn't have the depth charge, and Lantern from Prosper will be able to get Dragdar out to safety.
Power Thresh with that Aphelios, you just have that permanent safety net to offer. Begs the question how different game 1 would have been if Riddle had Thresh to back up their Aphelios. And you can see here, it just makes it very difficult to find these punish windows. Right now, do you see Riddle looking?
Oh, Fury just able to dodge away on the chains. That could have been a lot more painful for him if Slowq was able to connect those.
You missed the chains, and like that's all that pressure gone. Fury's fine now. He knows where MC is. Kind of just chill back, clear the wave. And you know, we're level 9 now for Slowq, and we still just haven't seen that pressure come out mid. It's a CS stage for Fury. We haven't seen that pressure apply down towards bot lane. And as a result, that window we're talking about...
Oh, no.
It's not really being capitalized on. And now they kill the Nautilus. Jinx is going to have to back away and the threat of being dove. This tower's already low. This is a pretty free take for Singularity. And honestly, a great early game for them so far.
Dragdart going to be able to pick it up. I'd like to see the local gold go over to NLC, at least on the first turret, but looks like it's going to be shared. Still a bunch of gold injected into Dragdart. Oh, actually, do you get local gold? You get local gold anyway, because he plays the Herald. I'm an idiot, don't worry.
Yeah, it's fine. Fine.
They're going to look for the charge, though. And they're going to get it. They're not going to commit for the tower, not going to fall for the same mistake they made in the last game. As now, MC looks for the kick, can't quite connect it. They've got the blast cone, but I think they're just going to concede the dragon for now.
Which again, this isn't a concern for Singularity because the dragon being taken just means they have to fight on the third. But at this point, they're feeling pretty comfortable. They've already got 2,500 gold lead right now. You know, Slow Q hasn't managed to snowball. Gooby's going to be down in gold compared to Dragdar. You don't really have as much parry threat compared to Singularity.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're chilling.
I mean, if we take a look at what items are going to get finished up here, almost got that Kraken Slayer finished up for Dragdar. Wazel's got the chains now finished up. So that kind of lengthy amount of CC you get out from that Sejuani will be extended for, at the moment, I believe Kex is the target, but it probably will become Gooby a little bit later on the Jinx. And Jinx, you know, requires kills and assists to actually get the momentum building. Might have to hold that, though, because Dragdar might be in a bit of trouble here. Kex sitting in the area, waiting for a potential assassination off onto Dragdar. It does get harder and harder.
Punish.
They've got MC. Here comes the call of the Forge God. Dragdar CC'd, knocked up for days. MC comes in. Dragdar heals. The Lantern from Prosper will save his life as the Moonlight Vigil comes down and Dragdar's back to full HP. In goes Nulty with the 3-man Moonfall. Fury looking for PlayStation. PlayStation able to survive, and Nulty now flashes away to safety. The chains go wide from Slow Q as he chases forwards a little bit more, but it's only the one for Riddle.
That could have been a lot more. Ultimately, they weren't able to connect the CC on a Dragdar. The Lantern coming in clutch. And as a result, Riddle can only run away with one kill on the back of that big bait they set up on that one. And now we see Singularity. They have sort of routing towards mid. They rotate straight there. And they're just going to take this tier 1. There's no avenue to stop this.
Oh, the rocket blocked out by Prosper as well. A true friend for the team. Meaning the minion wave doesn't go down. There weren't any plates, so consolation for Riddle. But, you know, big gold injection from that tower. Dragdar should be able to finish up his item, and Kex gonna stop Fury's reset. Fury made us have to stick around for one more wave now.
Again, things looking more and more favored towards Singularity. I feel more confident in that team going to the late game, and they've already got such a strong start in this one. You see the Kraken Slayer finished out for Dragdar, able to shred through the Ornn a little bit easier on the back of that one, but still kind of waiting for those 3-item spikes for the Aphelios. And that's the thing. There is that dragon in 3 minutes, but it's Cloud Soul. I don't think Singularity are nearly as concerned as if this was an Infernal Soul, but if they do want to contest it, if they want to make sure they deny that soul point, very much should be in a position to do so now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, 15 minutes in, the gold lead is 2,000 over to the side of Singularity. Dragdar, once again in the top lane. He's still got the murder guns, although does switch out to a Calibrum, but should be able to chip away at this tower with that sniper and that extra range. But Ornn actually able to wave clear pretty effectively, so this tower will stand for a little bit longer. But this is the final outer tower for Singularity, so you can see they are trying to put some focus on here, partly because it's that final tower, but partly because if you look just a little bit south of that, there is a Rift Herald spawning up, and that'll be where the attention goes. With this mid lane tower down, they can catch waves nice and high, shove them in deep, and keep Riddle in the dark for now. There's still a few wards that need to be cleared out from the side of Singularity. Most crucially, that one inside the pit will always give them some information, as PlayStation spotted out by Nulty, and Call of the Force God available to Kex. Prosper gonna throw the Lantern. Really, really well played actually by Dragdar to read the redirection to try and catch him as he lands. So beautiful stuff there from Singularity, and wow, that damage from Dragdar.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be so concerned about him. He's already ramped up significantly. Hard to challenge him with a Thresh. And then as they make the move for that play, Wazo just takes that bot lane tier 2 by himself. Feels like there isn't a great answer into the Sejuani right now as well. Just a bit too tanky for anyone to deal with.
I'd actually like to have a little look at the solo gold, the individual golds here, because yeah, there's a 1,200 gold lead between Weasel and Kex right now. Both of them are tanks, but, you know, Weasel's going to be that much tankier with that extra items. Obviously, he hasn't actually spent that gold lead at the moment. Most of it is sitting in his pocket, but...
Has that coal cash in?
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Money in the bank.
And Dragdar, his gold lead's going to grow. I didn't actually see what the difference between him and Gooby was, but it'll be pretty big off the fact he's had, you know, first turret blood with plates, turret mid lane, and turret top side. So he should have a pretty substantial gold lead. Goes back and gets himself the last whisper, and yeah, it's a pretty big one.
It is. It is a pretty big one, I would say. And they've now got a 3,300 gold lead, which is, again, pretty big. And I think at this point, Riddle are struggling to see if they can really contest a dragon. This feels like very much a cross-map play. And they should just take this tier 1 off the back of that, but they won't be able to get that third dragon in that soul point.
Yeah, you can see Weasel paying respect, knowing that his team are going to be now leaning towards that bot side. So they're happy to give that first tower over to the side of Riddle. Does give a little bit of gold back to Gooby on the Jinx, who at this point is pretty starved and really needs it. It's going to reset and look to cash in on the own item. Has obviously got that coal, so that's kind of why this gold lead isn't as bad right now between the AD carries. So it gets the tier 2 boots finished up. A couple of long swords as well. And the dragon number 1 for the side of Singularity get picked up. And Orcs, it feels like Singularity, you know, their ability to read the match state over their team fighting is what is pulling them ahead in this series.
I think they played this game really well, but also Riddle, they had a very finite window to capitalize on, and they weren't able to do it. You know, we had the Lucian able to provide the priority for that Diana. Diana got the free farm up to the point where she's comfortable. If you're picking Lee Sin LeBlanc and you've gotten 1 kill by 18 minutes and no farm leads in either role, haven't really applied that pressure to your side lanes, it hasn't worked, right? It's already established this hasn't been successful. If you're looking to play for the mid to late, there's way better things you could pick. And that's the concern here, because when it comes to team fights, if Gooby can't find angles to take over, I just don't see how they win. He is their primary damage threat. And it really starts to fall apart unless they can find a pick onto a critical carrier Singularity, or unless Gooby just absolutely pops off.
There's no objectives really spawning up other than that Baron as well. So Singularity, they're probably just going to chill for a bit, catch some waves, get, you know, more and more items onto Dragdar. And it is a level down on Gooby, but Gooby has been kind of solo farming as well for himself for a while. So, you know, there is still the condition for Gooby. You know, he's not out of this game. It's not monumentally bad. And he has a Jinx, so he can, if enabled and even given space later on in the game, can really pop off in these team fights. So it's something Singularity have to be careful of, but it's not like they don't have tools to handle that. But anyway, the Call of the Forge God comes in, the hook's going to land, and Prosper eats the chains, the stopwatch comes out, the box has been laid down, and there's the Moonfall coming in into the Moonlight Vigil. Everybody getting really, really chunked on the side of Riddle, but only losing 1 so far. Slowkey going to pop his passive, able to get away. The Ignite is burning, but he should just about survive. As they summon the Rift Herald, and Singularity, they're actually, with their double AD carry, just going to bolt towards Baron Nashor.
I don't think they can really do this, but I think they can set this up for a bait play.
I mean, they're going to start it. Look at Dragdar's guns.
I mean, they can definitely DPS it down, but this is very risky of a play. The game was very much in their control, but we'll see. Riddle look like they can challenge it. Remember, Kex's Smite with his spellbook. So yeah, I would not coin flip this one. The game is firmly in your control right now. You have a significant lead. Flipping a Baron is not the play, and they opt to back away on that one, potentially fishing for something there, but don't want to push things too far.
I think it was a bit of a DPS check as well to see how they would fare on it, and the answer's pretty bloody good, to be honest.
Yeah, I think as well, though, one of the things that kind of stopped that being as possible was Dragdar can't sort of maintain stacks on his Crescendum on the Baron anymore. That was like the nerf that kind of stopped Aphelios from just essentially solo DPSing it down at any point of the game. But either way, it's still a sort of successful play for Singularity, and I think the angle of approach from Riddle was not bad. Like trying to pick out the person with no flash, which was Prospect, trying to punish the fact that, you know, they burned that earlier. I mean, it's so difficult. If you commit all of those resources to trying to take out the Thresh and you don't kill him, and then the enemy team can re-engage, it's never going to be a good time.
Got the dragon spawning up in 1 minute 30 as well, so expect to see Honestly, nothing. I actually don't think Riddle are going to contest it. I think they'd be crazy to contest it. Obviously, you can kind of have that non-committal engage from the Ornn ultimate, and you know, if it doesn't hit who you want it to hit, then you can just step away.
The thing is, I think even if it hits, you know, Dragdar, it's like, what then?
I mean, when I say when it hits who it wants to hit, I mean all 5 people. It's kind of
like even if it hits all 5 people, like I feel like you really need to be synced up well. You need like slow Q with the double distortion on top of that. You need instantly Gooby to start to find some momentum, because right now, you know, if the front line, if Wazor is just in the way, even if you ult everyone, it's so hard to cut through him. He's used his anathemas on the Jinx, right? So Jinx is dealing 30% less damage to Sejuani. Ornn isn't exactly killing Sejuanis right now. LeBlanc and Lee Sin aren't exactly tank killers. It's kind of like you have one person who can kill this tank, and they are being denied that. And I think as a result, it's really difficult to see how Riddle play team fights if they're not banking off an initial pick, if they're not banking off, you know, someone from Singularity making a mistake. And that's the critical issue I'm seeing here with Riddle not being ahead in this situation.
Oh, they are just going to put the damage onto PlayStation. He gets the hook off into the tower to get away. Dragdar knocked up, flashed away. Everybody knocked up by the depth charge. Call of the Forge got thrown out as well. But ultimately, a couple of flashes traded here and there. But I think the big one is Dragdar's flash being down.
Yeah. Dragdar's flash being down is definitely a window that Riddle can play around and look to capitalize on. Unfortunately, the Dragon isn't that window, because you've just used, you know, your Ornn, you've used the Nautilus ult as well. You're not in a position to fight off the back of that, but you kind of just have to accept the Dragon's gone. You do manage to answer on the cross map with slow Q taking that tower. As much as losing tier 2 mid is a bit painful, at least they're making things happen.
Yeah, and that'll be the Void Staff finished up as well. So sure, it's not going to be perfect for killing Wazor, but it's going to help somewhat. Also, you know, big assassination now coming in from 2 items on the LeBlanc. So we have to keep our eye on Slowkey, level 14 right now. And the question is, you know, it is Slowkey's job to take out one of these major damage threats in Singularity, but that's the big problem is, you know, there's more than one major damage threat. You know, Nulty's able to put out a lot of damage. He's able to put a lot of disruption onto the team. Fury, very slippery, very hard to deal with. And Dragdar is a team fighting monster on this Aphelios. But for the side of Riddle, you know, it's primarily Gooby. Yes, Slowkey is a damage threat, but he's really only a damage threat to the kind of single squishy member at a time.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of single carry comps in the late game, and unfortunately with this Jinx, you're kind of leaning towards the later stages where she's going to be really relevant, and like that's at the best times. But with Anathema's Chains coming in with a Sejuani building it, it's like your single primary carry, the one who's going to be dealing the most, like the DPS in fights, has that damage really curved quite heavily by the Sejuani building that item. So it makes things very difficult. You've also got the Bramble Vest coming through. And I think we're a long way away from Riddle really feeling comfortable in a fight without getting, you know, a significant advantage. But even, as I say, a long way away. Even if it goes late game, it's still, you know, a Lucian, it's still an Aphelios who can find a lot of room to breathe in these scenarios.
Yeah.
We'll see what they're able to find. And I think a pick. They just need a pick, and you can see they've been fishing for them. If they're able to find one, great. But until that point, I think Singularity can just play this game slow, and they just, you can see from the way that they're playing things out, they feel very confident with the current game state.
Yeah, they really do. And I mean, you know, Dragdar, he's only getting stronger the longer this game goes. So sure, you can lean on Gooby, but like, you're also dealing with Aphelios as Kex. Gonna go for a bit of a fight versus Wazor. Do believe he has the Bellows Breath. Yep, able to block out on the Everfrost, but even so, that still does a lot of damage on this Sejuani.
I think at this point they're kind of both tanky enough where we're not going to see any solo kills. It's just a little bit of light trading.
Yeah.
It'll keep each other occupied.
You do, if your Riddle, have the ornaments as something you can kind of, you know, they give you it might not really be that relevant now, but as we get later and later into the game, that kind of extra half item worth stats can help, can add up. Gooby is technically equal to Dragdar right now, but he might not be alive for long because Wazor comes in over the wall, catches him in the Glacial Prison, but they find the hook and Gooby able to survive everything. Call of the Forge God comes down and the 2-man knockup is there, but there's the Moonlight Vigil from Dragdar as he looks to continue to spread the damage. Gooby finding the resets now as MC able to jump away, and look at Gooby's damage. Prosphere, it's the rocket, instant cleanse out from Gooby. They trade 1 for 2 though. At the end of the day, Singularity come out ahead.
Yeah, it's just so difficult because you see we're starting to get the damage coming out from Gooby, starting to ramp up, get the resets, but it just doesn't matter. It's just you can't step forwards into Dragdar and Fury. Fury in particular can just check you at any time, and as a result, you have to slow play it, and that one was just gave enough of time for Singularity to take down Riddle's frontline. This is again the problem is just the fact that you have this Sejuani who's so tanky, you can absorb so much damage with that Anathema's chains. And this is when Gooby's starting to get the momentum, but he can't move further forwards because Fury can just check him.
Yeah. Got the Wormfall and Sacrifice now finished up, and the buildings of that Infinity Edge. That'll be a really, really big spike for the Jinx. Level 14 as well, so closing in on that final rank on the Super Mega Death Rocket. Dragdar, you can tell that he's been with Prosper a lot more, as Prosper got a level lead on PlayStation and Dragdar leveled down on Gooby. Heavily playing around the fact that Fresh is a peel tool, and by no means do I think that is the wrong thing to do. I think that's absolutely how they should be playing these team fights and just playing the laning stage, because Dragdar is worth a shutdown, a pretty significant one as well. Won't have his next item finished up for this dragon in time, but Riddle, they're setting up for a potential something here.
I mean, they're actually just starting up the Baron. I mean, Diana's really fast at taking this with a passive. They will be spotted out. I feel like things are pretty tense at the moment. Gooby now closing on that 3-item point puts them in a really more comfortable spot, but still have the same concerns we had earlier in this one. And I think the biggest thing for me is SlowQ and this LeBlanc just hasn't really been able to find an impact yet.
Yeah.
I want to see this LeBlanc pop someone. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, on that flank, can they do it? Wazel eating lots of damages. There's the depth charge. The Call of the Forge God's going to knock off a couple of members. SlowQ jumps in, finds himself a kill. Not the pop we were expecting, but it's a pop nonetheless.
They get a kill. You know,
and Riddle going to be able to take themselves their second dragon of the game. Well, Singularity, they're not going to be able to turn to Baron in time, so just going to shove the wave and reset.
Third dragon of the game, Jake.
Third dragon.
Yeah, so it puts them on soul point. The soul is nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly a game changer, right? And I don't think anyone on that team really utilizes the Cloud Soul that well. But the passive movement speed is pretty nice. You know, especially with the Jinx, you start getting those resets, you start diving forwards. That's definitely a solid one. We see an ornament come in for the LeBlanc. We've already got it on the Jinx. We're starting to see a bit more power. And I think the thing is, at this point, despite the fact Wazel has the Anathemas, we're seeing the Jinx do a fair bit of damage. Now has the Infinity Edge in pocket, has the Threat Spike, has the Armor Pen. Singularity, if they kind of misstep, this is where the range of the Jinx can really come into fruition. So they have to be a bit more cautious about how they approach things. If Wazel steps too far forwards, they can and will burst him down.
They absolutely will. And now SlowQ level 16, so 4 points in that Mimic. Got 3 items on the LeBlanc. I'm assuming we'll probably see a Death Cap as the 4th item if SlowQ finishes up a 4th item. Although, honestly, from the pace of this game is going, I actually do expect to see at least one more item come out from, you know, Gooby and SlowQ, maybe closing on full builds at this point. So have a look at the gold graph, actually, because I just got the little toggle in my ear. There it is. Yeah, it's been very Singularity favored, although it's never been massive, I think is the big thing. They've had a very good control on the game, so the gold graph doesn't quite feel like it represents how the game has been. But I think it's also partly down to Riddle playing a pretty okay job of, like, sustaining it out.
Plus, if you think of gold as like a percentage of the total gold, they haven't increased it, right? It's been roughly similar now, and
yeah,
I think Riddle are feeling more confident around a fight, but they are so reliant on Gooby to be this critical carry.
Well, they're jumping straight in on 2-1 already. In goes SlowQ. Everybody stopwatches. No pop there, but a big man knockout comes in from Kex, and Wazel will lose his life. The Culling's coming down, and the damage from Gooby. He's looking for the reset. He's looking for the kill.
He's going.
Riddle on a tear right now, and Singularity will fall down. Gooby gets the triple kill, and absolutely goob Singularity.
And I mean, this was such a slow game, but Riddle find the team fight. They just needed one. They get the resets on a Gooby. He finds the momentum, and they're just going to end the game like that out of nowhere.
We talked about how we didn't like the single damage carry comps, but at the end of the day, Riddle show us that they are the superior team fighting team. And goddamn, do they pop off. As the Nexus will go down, and we're going to game number 3.
And you know what? I was critical. I felt like Riddle were taking this game a little bit too slow, not really ramping up in it. And as much as the Jinx functions well as a long-range carry, I was concerned about the fact that if she gets challenged, she will be in trouble. But the thing is, she wasn't challenged, right? You have a Diana, you have a Sejuani. We didn't see them get anywhere near to this Jinx. And then as soon as people start going down, the Jinx starts to ramp up, get the momentum, and can just clean up the fight. And Riddle able to answer back in a pretty slow game.
Yeah, I mean, it was, for me, the major question is sure, it was a nice little pick onto PlayStation with the Glacial Prism, but that is a major tool for dealing with Kubi. And, you know, they threw it out. Sure, they got the kill, but then they went, let's fight, let's carry on. But you've got to work through the Call of the Forge God. Everyone had to stop watch the double distort from slow Q. And Kubi was just bought the space. That was what we talked about a little bit earlier. They had that space for him to move and breathe, and he just took over the fight. Absolutely stellar stuff there from the side of Riddle, and that means we are going to game number 3. But before that, it's time for a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have the analyst desk to talk about that game. So see you in a moment.